In OP06 we have new Sakazuki archetype taking the European regionals by the storm. But should you play it or stick to the more traditional classic version of Sakazuki deck in OP06? Let me help you answer this question. So as you can see on the screen, I prepared for you two simple lists, one with the stage archetype and one classic. And let me start by saying that both versions are strong. It's possible to top the tournament with both variants. The left one is made by Team Seafood King on Patreon, and the right one, the classic version, was used in Asia Finals by our current world champion. And I chose those variants on purpose as opposed to the recently popular one in Europe, because it will be easier to compare them where the most important differences are instead of comparing the tech choices. I invite you to deep dive at the fundamental level, so at the end of this video I hope you can make your own decision if it's better for you to play the stage or the classic version based on this info. We start our comparison with the reducers cards, and straight off the bat, two most important cards for Sakazuki. One is obviously the stage for the stage version Navy HQ, and another one is recently banned in Asia, Great Eruption in classic versions. It's important to understand here that those two cards virtually do the same thing but a little bit different, so it's counterintuitive to play both of them in Sakazuki as the list is already very tight. So we must choose one or another. And if you would show me both of these cards without any context, I would say, yeah, Great Eruption is for sure better. We just pay 1 Dawn, draw 1 card so it replaces itself, we give -2 cost to one of the opponent's characters, and trigger can disrupt the hand of our opponent in the right timing. On the flip side, we have Navy HQ that has on play to give one of our opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn, but we have activate main effect that if we raise this stage and our leader is the Navy type, obviously Sakazuki is Navy type, we give one of our opponent's characters -1 during this turn. So the moment we play those both cards from our hand, Great Eruption has an advantage, because we essentially give -2 in both of these scenarios, but Great Eruption draws us a card, so replaces itself in our hand. However, long-term value from stage is also powerful, because okay, we are -1 from hand card, but our profit here is the Dawn that we will be saving in the following turns to -1 opponent's character, and normally it wouldn't be anything crazy, but when we combine it with effect of our leader Sakazuki, we are having free -2 cost every turn. So in a sense, free Great Eruption for using 1 card from our hand. And this opens some more combinations for our deck, but we are paying the cost of consistency, of drawing the extra card. So here is your choice. Do you want the long-term value of the stage but draw less cards in a game? Or do you want the immediate value of Great Eruption but have to spend 1 Dawn every time that you want to use it, but draw a card in exchange? And those two cards make playing the Sakazuki deck quite different from each other, because it's not a secret that Sakazuki is built around Moria character card that is 8 cost. So there are the scenarios where Great Eruption has advantage because it helps you draw Moria faster if you didn't draw it from your leader's effect. But on the flip side, if you already have Moria in hand and setup is ready, then stage brings you more value on Moria turns, but we will discuss it in detail later. For now, what is important to remember, those two cards are your first choice to do. Draw power over the Dawn efficiency. The next example of differences in reducers I have for you is the Kuzan and Hina versus Ice Age. So you already know that we play the stage variant with the stage that essentially give us -1 cost every turn for free. So most of the stage lists cut Ice Age in favor of Kuzan and Hina. And in classic version, as opposed to the stage, we play most often 2 copies of Ice Age for consistency to contest big bodies of our opponent. And now, why is it important to compare those 3 cards all together? You might say, hey, Raccoon, but classic version also plays Hina and Kuzan, and I agree. But we use different ratios. So in the stage version, we don't play Ice Age at all because we are adding 1 more Kuzan and most likely 1 more Hina. So in total we have 3 Kuzans and 4 Hinas instead of 2 Ice Ages, 2 Kuzans and 3 Hinas in the classic version. And why is that? When you read the effects of those cards, Ice Age give us -5 cost, but Hina and Kuzan give us only -4 cost during this turn. But we need to remember that we play the stage, and this difference give us 1 more minus needed to achieve the threshold that normally is available only for the Ice Age. So it doesn't matter if we swing with Kuzan or play Hina from our hand, or maybe in combo with Rebecca. If we have stage in play, we essentially achieved the threshold of Ice Age while developing the body on board. On the flip side, however, Ice Age is just 1 Dawn cost card, also with powerful trigger that can come in handy in certain situations. But the main point is that Ice Age is really easy to combine with our Moria character on 9 Dawn turn to remove some big bodies, but also develop our own Moria. A little bit more about those combos later. For now, it's important to know that if you play the stage version, you are cutting Ice Age in favor of more copies of Kuzan and Hina. And because of that, they are essentially your Ice Ages if you can play them in combo with stage on board. So keep in mind, they are your premium reducers. Like the Ice Age is premium reducer in a classic version, in a stage version your premium reducer is Kuzan and Hina. So think twice how to properly set up them. The next comparison I have for you is the removal. And for removal we have 2 different main removal cards in both of those decks. One of them is Amano Murakumo Sword in stage version, and in the classic we have already known from Rebecca Hina Lucci combo Rob Lucci. And here again you might say, but both decks are playing those cards, and I agree, but there is a difference again with the ratios. In the classic version, we play most likely between 3 to 4 copies of Rob Lucci. First of all, it's a body that we can develop and KO opponent's characters, but also we want to see him in our trash for our Moria turn. On the flip side, we have Amano Murakumo Sword, that in classic version most often we see just 1 copy. In stage version we play 3 of them in favor of cutting Rob Lucci. And why is that? So essentially Murakumo Sword is 2 cost event that works like Lucci, but instead of KO effect we have bottom deck effect. It's cheaper but without developing the body. And against the decks that can surprise you with a trigger, maybe like Yellow Katakuri, and put a lot of cheap threats on a board, like let's say Red Purple Low, you will have easier times in early game if you utilize Murakumo Sword, as it's easier to reduce multiple targets with our stage leader and reducers and finish the combo off with Murakumo Sword to bottom deck both of pesky triggers, like for example Kikunojo or Perospero that we don't really want to KO. Also, if we set up everything perfectly, we have a disgusting turn, especially in black matchups against opponent's Moria with our Moria on 10 Dawn, but I will explain it in detail a little bit later. The main thing to understand here is to compare those 2 cards side to side and decide if you want to play more around your Rob Lucci maybe be a little bit more consistent in finding him and putting him in trash for your 8 cost Moria? Or do you want to rely on event like Murakumo Sword to bottom deck the threats of our opponent, or maybe even the combo pieces like opponent's Lucci or Helmeppo? And for the ratios in stage, most often I see it's played in 3 copies Murakumo Sword, and Lucci then cut down to 3 or even 2 copies, as he is not the main focus of a deck. And next, based on all this information, I have some example payouts that you have by each version. As I said at the start, it's not about which version is better, but what you want to achieve as a player against your opponents. The most simple payout in stage version is by our turn 6 if we have Sakazuki, leader and stage on board, and we use both of the effects. We can for free reduce cost of our opponent 4 cost, follow up with Houndblaze, and for remaining 4 Dawn we can develop one of our admirals, in this example Kuzan. As you can see, 6 Dawn turn, really disgusting. If you are able to develop stage early, you don't waste any extra Dawn for reducing opponent's character, like let's say Perona in Moria or maybe Kikunojo in Katakuri with a card like Great Eruption. You can just straight go to the face, -1 from leader's effect, -1 from Navy HQ, follow up with Houndblaze maybe on one of your searchers like Tashigi, and then finish the turn off with Kuzan and have a very nice setup for the next turn. And because of that, very often stage variant is considered as a hard counter to yellow Katakuri, as you can not only bottom the cards with a Houndblaze in this scenario, but also you can make more complex turn to maybe bottom deck Kikunojo and Perospero if you put in a combo Murakumo Sword in the same fashion. On a flip side, we have really simple payoff from Great Eruption. This card is basically free, and in my opinion it's banned for a reason. Because yes, on one side Navy brings a lot of value long term, but Great Eruption is basically free and you can put any card in its place. So what we can read here is pay 1 Dawn, draw a card, -2. So there is no real downside for Great Eruption, and especially in a deck that is built around 4 copies of Gecko Moria that is not searchable in Sakazuki in any way, it might come really handy, because on average, by playing Great Eruption, okay, our early turns might be a little bit weaker in body development, but we still clear the board and work towards 8 cost Moria draw, because we need to draw him naturally, either from our leader's effect or from Great Eruption draw, as opposed to stage, where we need to rely only on leader's effect, and we already saw matches in regionals where Sakazuki players, even in best of 3, didn't draw a single Moria copy and lose to their opponents because of their Moria, be it in the Gecko Moria deck or Sakazuki or any other black deck. For the next payout, we need to compare 2 strong turns from both decks. Obviously, if we are going second with a stage Sakazuki and we have our trash and the board set up in a way that we have Rob Lucci and Helmeppo in trash and our stage on board, as early as 8 Dawn turn, we can play Moria in and combo it with Helmeppo stage leader reduce to clear opponent's 7 cost body, while developing our board wide. On the flip side, because classic Sakazuki doesn't play the stage, we cannot reach this threshold. So we need to either not play our Gecko Moria this turn and play some other reducers and removal cards into, let's say, 7 cost Big Mom, or just develop the value Gecko Moria that will be Gecko Moria into Kuzan into any of our searchers, be it Brenyu or Tashigi. From removal standpoint, on-curve Moria is stronger in stage version in my opinion. On the flip side, however, in classic version, if we are playing against black decks and they put 8 cost Moria on curve against us, we have very clean answer. I think it's the strongest 9-Dawn turn in the game right now. That is Ice Age into Gecko Moria Helme Polucci combo in combination with Sakazuki leader effect. We can clear the opponent's Moria board clean with this combo. And this is where Ice Age comes in handy, because when you think about it, the 9-Dawn turn from the stage Moria is not that strong. They cannot really reach the threshold without the Ice Age, even with the Navy HQ, so they either need to have already Kuzan on board or just build the turn differently and postpone their own Moria. So again, it's here for you to decide, are you more comfortable just having clean answer if you are forced to go first with the classic version, or are you happy to rely on the stage version and maybe structure your 9-Dawn turn a little bit different to have a bigger payout on the following 10-Dawn turn. And as a matter of fact, 10-Dawn turn is the strongest stage turn in a game, but you need to have everything prepared perfectly. It might not always be possible just with the leader's effect to draw the correct combo pieces, so maybe you need some more luck from your searchers like Brenyu and Tashigi to set up this turn. But if you are able to pull it off, most likely you will be closing the game next turn. And why is that? Because in stage on 10-Dawn, what can we do is use our leader and Navy HQ reducing power in combination with Gecko Moria into Rebecca and Helmepo to -3, and then Rebecca brings us back Hina to the board for another -4. So if you count it correctly, pay attention, -4, -1 and -1 from Sakazuki, Navy HQ and Hina to put one of the opponent's threats, like let's say Gecko Moria, on 2, because in total we did -6. And then Helmepo can -3 any other 4-cost threat, even the untouchable blocker like Borsellino. And we finish our combo with Murakumo Sword to bottom both pieces. So not only we are removing most impactful turn from our opponent, we also bottom deck the pieces. So if it was their only Lucci on board and in grave, and they don't have another one in hand, they cannot really answer cleanly our Gecko Moria turn. On the flip side, in the classic build, because we don't run the stage, we are missing this one extra minus power. So normally what you will see from this variant, if they decide to pull off the same combo, will be the finisher with the Houndblaze if we are speaking about the opposing Gecko Moria. Because if opponent's character is 7 cost and another is 4 cost, we can still pull out this combo, but the most threatening combos in the game unfortunately involve Gecko Moria. So in this standoff, stage has advantage. A stage version has much more clear answer while also bottom decking both of the pieces. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide which variant you like best. Both of them are strong and both of them can top any tournament on a good day. For the stage variant, for the pros, we have more Dawn efficiency. We can answer 7 cost on curve with our Moria if we have stage developed, and we have best 10 Dawn combo in a game like I just mentioned. And this is all. On the cons, however, we have quite weak 9 Dawn turn. We need to prepare in advance if we are going first how we want to solve the turn with 9 Dawn. And unfortunately we are a little bit less consistent that we already see. Drawing Moria just with the leader's effect might be challenging at times. So in conclusion, if you are the luckiest person on earth and you will see every correct piece in each of your games, then for sure play stage. Stage has higher ceiling. If you see every card that you need, no one can beat you. You're just winning the tournament 10-0. However, on average day, I would still pick Classic, because for the pros we are more consistent thanks to the Ice Age, thanks to the Great Eruption cards. We have easier times answering the board in certain situations, but also we have this additional draw power to find our best card in a deck that is 8 cost Gecko Moria. As already mentioned, more 1 cost reducers that might come handy in some scenarios, as opposed to relying on finding the stage in the early game and then following up with Kuzan or Hina that are premium reducers in stage. In Classic we can just use our 1 cost events. And obviously, as already said, thanks to the Ice Age we have the best 9-don combo in a game, that we can basically answer anything on board with Ice Age and Gecko Moria combo with Lucci and Helmeppo. However, for the cons we have weaker 10-don turn than stage. It's not always relevant. The main focus here is mostly on the black matchups. In other matchups this weaker 10-don turn is not that true, because we still can pull it off if opponent didn't develop the 8 cost and 4 cost body at once, that as a matter of fact only Gecko Moria can do in a turn, but it's something to keep in mind if you are going into Gecko Moria or Sakazuki heavy meta. And another con is obviously less bottom decking. We play only 1, sometimes 2 copies of Murakumo Sword, but we don't have that much bottom deck power as stage version. So sometimes we can have a situation where Kikunojo or Perospero will stick on board because we cannot draw into our bottom decking power. However, in most of the matchups from my experience, we are more prone to use the Houndblaze anyway for bottom decking and buffing our characters, and keep the Murakumo Sword for later turns, like mentioned 10-don turn. So not a big weakness, but something to be aware of. After a lot of testing of both builds, for now I will be staying with the Classic one, as it works better for me and I like the simplicity of the 9-don turn, especially if I'm forced to go first in mirror and then just ask my opponent, okay, do you have your fancy wombo combo if you are on stage? Also, I noticed that I brick much more with the stage variant, especially if I don't see stage early or if I don't find 8 cost Moria on time, it might get really nasty. On the flip side, however, still I recommend playing stage if you are looking for more flexibility with your turns. If you are an advanced player, stage rewards the good player more and you have much higher ceiling, but because I'm still a casual player, I will just stick to Classic, and for any new Sakazuki player, I recommend to do the same. Start with the Classic, understand the fundamentals of the deck, compare them later, maybe watch the video again after some time, compare the strengths and the weaknesses of both versions and cards that are played in them. Also compare it to your local meta or prediction for the regionals, and then make decision again which cards you want to slot in or slot out. And as a bonus, before I go, I have for you the list posted by RJ on Twitter when the stage topic got heated up in Europe and NA. And for me, I call it best of both worlds, and it's really smart deck building that I would like to point to you, that when you understand the deck on the fundamental level and role of each of the cards, you can build something very creative. Just pay attention. This is the stage build, but we have 2 Ice Ages. But what should we cut to implement 2 Ice Ages to make our weak turn, that is 9-don turn, a little bit better? And answer for RJ was easy. They cut 1 Hina and they cut 1 Kuzan. And this is, if you remember, the same reasoning that I showed you here. Because Kuzan and Hina, in a sense, in stage build are Ice Age. But they are Ice Age only if you see the stage. So if you don't see a stage but you see your Ice Age, you are still good to go. But if you are not playing Ice Age in your deck, you really rely to keep Kuzan on board or see Hina in the correct timing. So once again, very smart deck building from RJ. Personally, I'm not going into this version. As I said earlier, for me, for now, Classic is much more beneficial to play, but this is something that I would like to highlight to you to encourage experimenting. Just because top players play, for example, 4-cost Borsalino for now, it doesn't mean you need to play 4-cost Borsalino. By the way, it will be my next video if you should play this card or not in the current meta. But all in all, trust yourself, trust what you feel is better for you. Maybe you know some other spicy card that you can add in either of the versions to make it even better. Let me know in the comments below. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next video. Take it easy.